Hello, Seymour. As you know, GVE is going through a turmoil with a lot of problems that we face as a company. During the last few weeks or so, I thought about all these things and I made some recommendations to improve productivity, labor relations, and profit at Granville Engineering Inc., GVE. I looked at the human factor perspective and I'm presenting my recommendation to you today. Now, what I focused my recommendations, well, before I present the recommendation, what I did is I look at from a theory perspective, what is going on and how we can face the problems. Now, to even get to be more specific, I started by defining what a theory is. A theory is a set of ideas that attempt to explain an observable, real-life scenario, event, or behavior. Now, for a theory to be a good theory, it ought to include 3 of the 6 following components, and those are 6 components are postulate, and postulate are a set of assumptions and fundamental principles made explicit. Descriptions, theories sometimes contain labels for and descriptions of various elements of phenomenon. Process statement, a theory sometimes demonstrate the step-by-step or let's say a chronological order of phenomenon under the phenomenon under scrutiny. Linkage statement, the theory will link one part of reality to another part. The 5th component is known as boundary condition, meaning what is the context or the contexts within which the theory was originally applied. And then explanations, which a theory will provide the why or let's say the how of the phenomenon under scrutiny. Now, human factors are huge when we're talking about organizational issues, obstacle and problem, because humans are who work within the organization, right? So what is a human factor theory per se? It's a management approach that focuses on improving working conditions in an organization to influence worker motivation, satisfaction, and productivity. Now, to be even more specific here, we can talk about behavioral human factor theories that sort of like explain the linkage between, let's say, the linkage between or how a leader or organizational manager can influence a worker behavior, and that in itself boost worker motivation and or affect its workers' productivity. A number of theorists, human behavioral theorists, argue and approach this issue in a different way. So, for instance, Howard Thorne believed or argued that changes in productivity changes that are based in productivity. Changes in productivity are based on change in work environment, where Maslow, on the other hand, believed that management that understand employee can influence those employee motivation and productivity. Frederick Herzberg, 2-factor theory, stated that there are hygiene factors, and if those hygiene factors are poor within an organization, then workers will be dissatisfied no matter what. And then last but not least, Mary Follett, as I've come to discover, argued that cooperation and coordination between managers and employee could lead to better outcome. Now, what are the current factors at GVE? Human factors, that is. So we know that wages wage freezes, there's a loss of benefit, the rise in employee turnover. Turnover is very high. The threat to become a union, the workers are threatening to become a union, and that can be costly down the road. Increased incidents of assembly line stoppages, missed productions, quotas, and all the sort of things that at the end of the day are affecting our output quality, the product quality. There's also a leaked threat of moving the production, the company itself shutting it down and moving it to Seoul, South Korea. And production managers do not give equal representation from what we hear from the worker, and that sort of biasness or unfair treatment of workers is affecting our overall bottom line. Okay, so what I kind of did is I look at Frederick Herzberg motivation and hygiene theory per se, just to sort of come up and see what's really going on, because our workers are not satisfied at all. And those job dissatisfactions are influenced by factors that are called hygiene factors, work condition, supervisor quality, and all these things need to be, those are the basic need that a worker needs to be satisfied. And once they're satisfied, then we can work on what's called motivator factors, such as achievement recognition or advancement or raises and so on and so forth, that will motivate workers down the road. As I explained it, at this point, all our workers are dissatisfied and they're not motivated, so we need to bring them to a satisfaction level and work on getting them, at the end of the day, highly satisfied and highly motivated. And so I came up with 3 recommendations. And the very first recommendation is because, again, our workforce is not satisfied at all. So, and they're not feeling that there's a sense of job security, because they think their job, the plant will close down. So we need to jointly communicate to all employees, all of them, that the plant will remain open and operating. In this scenario, the leadership should reassure everyone at GVE and TS that we will continue working closely and in synergy, right? We should also mention that this will meet the hygiene factor of job security, right? Because that's one of the challenges, right? So we have to make sure that the company will remain open and operating, and that the doors will remain open, and that their job is not threatened by taking the company overseas. Recommendation number 2 that I made is that GVE should reduce labor force by not replacing retiree full-time equivalent, meaning that we should implement an internal promotion policy that will consist of not hiring new staff when a staff retire, and cross-train the existing entry level so they take more responsibility. We also can develop a mentorship program and cross-train the existing employees so that they are more efficient and productive. And we can reduce payroll expenses through early retirement option and incentives. Last but not least recommendation is to create a team of representatives, folks, maybe 3 people who are staff members who are elected by the peer to communicate production worker concern directly to the GVE management. This will minimize the threat of unionization. This will create a climate of trust between employees and the management. And overall, this team of 3 that I'm recommending would perform the former COO task without hiring a new person, adding a new person on the payroll. Okay, so these are the 3 recommendations, Seymour, that I strongly believe that if we implement them in the coming weeks or month, we will start seeing improvement. And I thank you very much for considering this recommendation. I look forward to improving our revenues and making our company more successful. Thank you.